this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we are going to be talking about this crazy rant that happened on ESPN because this host, Sarah Spain, she got really mad because a group of players, there was these pride pins that they wanted them to wear, and some of them weren't going to wear them, and they cited religious reasons. And you know what? People shouldn't have to cite religious reasons. If they don't want to wear the pins, they don't want to wear the pins, and they shouldn't have to give a reason other than that. It should really be that simple if they don't want to wear that. But she went into this crazy rant, like, this is what happens when you're in a privileged class and they're so uneducated and blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, aren't you guys supposed to be talking about sports? She just went to this big really really bigoted rant, and it just goes to show you that it's not just about love is love, and people go out and do their own thing. If you do not lay yourself at their altar and go ahead and just convert and affirm and accept, not just tolerate, but just accept and embrace and also celebrate, then you will be a homophobic bigot, and that's it. That's what it is. So we're gonna be talking about that. Matthew McConaughey also went to the White House and the other day and talked about gun control, and he gave a very passionate speech, and he's not like, I mean, people always kind of roll their eyes when celebrities get up and talk about stuff, but I think Matthew McConaughey is smarter than the average bear, but he's still wrong about a couple things. So I got a little snippet that I want to go through and play for you guys. Also, I saw this clip of Debbie Stabenow, who's a senator from Michigan, my state, and man, it's so out of touch and crazy to me, and I'm gonna do lots of things with it, but I just want to show you and go through it, and just and also this clip of the White House with the press secretary, who's the worst. She's so bad. She's so much worse than Jen. And diversity hires, we should reject them. We should absolutely reject them. They're not good. She's not good at her job at all. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on the website. Please check out different articles that I've written. Please check out different merch that I have, like this awesome goat hoodie. And I also got a t-shirt, different colors. You guys can check that out. I got the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt with a list of some of his racist stuff on the back. The I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. And I also got all kinds of books that I've written, like this historical fiction fantasy book, takes place in the Civil War. Imagine like X-Men meets like Harriet Tubman kind of stuff. But I have nonfiction books as well. You guys can check out, if you go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise, there's a banner that will take you over to like my book website, and you can see all that kind of stuff. And you should consider buying some stuff, because my birthday is Friday and I like some extra cash. So go ahead and support that way. It does help, Black Tea News. And I always appreciate when people read my work as well. You guys know I write articles, and I am working also on a political book as well, but it's what I love to do. And there's a lot of people who create content who hate your guts, like Disney, for example. So I do encourage people to actively try to support other folks who engage and make content, like Daily Wire's putting out some kids entertainment that they'll have, I think, ready to go by, I guess, toward the end of the year. They'll have like a cartoon for chinchillas or something, not for chinchillas, but about chinchillas, and the people who make Veggie Tales are writing it. So they got some cool stuff going on, and you have Eric July, who he's with the Blaze, but I really like his podcast, his show. He's a libertarian. He's a very he's into like comic books and other kind of stuff. So we have interests that very much overlap, but he's making his own comic book company. So there's a lot of people, content creators, who are making good stuff, who just need some support. So consider supporting me. And also, please make sure you're going to the website, dropping your email that you're subscribing, that you're liking. Facebook changed their likes and following system around, so it goes by follows rather than likes. I don't know what happened to the likes. I suppose they're still there in existence, but it goes more by follows. So if you were liked the page before, but you weren't following the page, make sure that you are also following the page. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you're hitting notification bells. And I think on Twitter, you can super follow now. It's all very strange, but make sure that you are up to date on the latest stuff from Black Teen News. Okay, I do not have a joke for you guys today, so we're just gonna, well, I guess we could laugh at Debbie Stabenow. This is so out of touch, guys. So ridiculously out of touch.
I do have to say, just on the issue of gas prices, after waiting for a long time to have enough chips in this country to finally get my electric vehicle, I got it and drove it from Michigan to here this last weekend and went by every single gas station, and didn't matter how high it was. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity for us to move to vehicles that aren't going to be dependent on the whims of the oil companies and the international markets.
I got myself a Tesla, and I got to drive around in my $50-something thousand car, and I not have to care about how much gas prices are, because I've been a senator forever, and I've gotten so much cash. But the medium income of a Michigander is about as much as that car costs. So it's just not feasible for so many people to just drop the cars that they have and to go buy electric ones. It's just not in the cards right now. And so for her to be like, I got to drive all the way here, which some people were doubting if that even happened, but and not have to care about how high gas prices are, even though they're $5.19 is $5.19, $5.29, I think is the average around what I'm seeing right now. I did see some places, I think last night, they were like $5.39, $5.59, and not 59, maybe 49. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know if it was going to get to $5. Now I'm like, are we going to get to $6 very soon? In a week or so? Who knows? But it's like, let them eat cake. What is wrong with this woman to be so radically out of touch, bragging about such a thing? And she's like, I'll be so happy when we don't have to be at the whims of, what people don't understand about. And in Granholm, I played a clip of her yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, talking about how they're not expecting gas prices to go down. And so they want to move toward these other energy solutions. And I thought that was curious, because I'm like, well, gas prices went down under Trump. They were high during Obama's time. And at one point in Trump's presidency, they were $3, which Mr. Klein of the Biden administration, he was once trashing Trump because gas prices were $3. Some people are going back and finding some really good old gems, but it got down to lower than $2. It was under $2 under Trump. So if you're doing things to create a market that is really favorable, and there's a lot of supply, and we're tapping into our own resources, and it makes sense for a lot of people to invest and keep pumping out the supply, it'll make sense that the stuff will go down, the prices will go down. But to me, Granholm talking about that makes it sound like either one, they don't know how to solve the problem, or two, they don't want to solve the problem because they want us to move in this direction of just going toward these electric cars and so on. And a lot of these people have investments in those things, which more people, when they realize, are waking up to knowing that they have special interest in these things. So, gosh, I was just so out of touch, and I can't wait to just start doing some things with that clip. I can't wait to start doing some things with that clip. That's crazy. By the way, I did ask if you were in Michigan to just go to the gas station, take a photo of the gas station, and just you can send it, post. I did a post, and people are just putting in the prices, but they're not sending me pictures. Like, guys, come on, just snap a photo and just say, this happened in Clarkston, this happened in Brighton, this is in Pontiac. Like, just just send me a couple photos of the different gas prices of the day, and you help me out with a video. Otherwise, I can figure it out myself. But if you could do me a solid and just snap it, go to the gas station, snap a photo, and post it, and under that thread on my Facebook page. Thank you very much if you do that. The White House also weighed in on the trash economy right now, and this press secretary is so bad. And guess what? It doesn't matter that she's a gay immigrant and she's black. She still sucks at her job.
What I'm trying to say to you is that the economy is in a better place than it has been historically. And so we feel here at this administration, and other experts as well, is that we feel that we are in a good position to take on inflation. We are in a good position to really start really working on lowering prices.
So, why are you in a good position like right now to do that? Like, why isn't that something that you've been doing? And historically, when, like, because there's people who have lived through the Jimmy Carter era and are saying that this is worse, that this feels worse right now, and that Biden is the worst president of their lifetime, and people cannot even afford to get to work. Like, I remember it being rough like that with gas prices. Gas being so high hurts so many people, and it causes so many things to go up because people need to transport food and all kinds of other supplies. Everyone's business basically goes up when the gas prices go up, especially how much they've gone up. And then it's hard for people to get to work because it costs so much to get there. And they're like, well, we feel historically it's better than it's been in some points. Like, what points are you talking? Like the Great Depression? Which what points are you talking about? Clearly not anything during the Trump era. And a lot of people really thought that when Biden came in, he was really, really lucky because he was going to benefit off of, we had an artificial depression. Basically, it was going to be like flip a switch, turn stuff back on, get back to business, and you should see a bunch of job growth and other things. But they just did things to exacerbate the problem. They spent money that they didn't need to spend. They kept encouraging people to not work. Joe Rogan, oh my gosh, I was so glad to hear this. There's a clip of Joe Rogan out. Maybe I'll have to find it and play it for you guys another day. But he used to believe in universal basic income, and he thought just give people enough money to pay their rent and whatever. The idea of universal basic income is like you find a way, I don't know, to pay everybody like maybe $2,000 a month, and I don't know, they'd spend their life doing jobs that they like, and the world would be better for it, which didn't make any sense to me. And Andrew Yang was a big proponent of it. And Joe Rogan, who's not a conservative, even though people like to say he's on the right and stuff, he's just not a crazy person. He likes liberty. He thought that was a good idea, but he was talking about the pandemic opened his eyes to human nature. And then he was just surprised how many people getting the unemployment stuff just would not work. And he had one friend who owned a restaurant, and someone was like, okay, I can work for you a little bit, but I can't work more than this amount of hours because then they'll cut off some of my money. So human nature, you can't forget about that. People will need to I mean, there's a scripture in the Bible, a man doesn't work, he ought not eat. And John Smith like carried that idea over to the colony when at first like everybody was just kind of taking what they wanted and not working and putting in effort for themselves. And people were getting upset and they were going to starve or whatever. And he's like, we can't live like this. Like everyone has to pull their own weight. And if you don't have a society that functions like that, you're going to create people who will just take advantage of you time and 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 time again. So I'm glad that Joe Rogan woke up, and I was so glad that he specifically mentioned the universal basic income, because I'm like, nothing about, if you just analyze the pandemic, nothing made any sense as far as the stuff they were pushing, like universal basic income. Obviously, if people get a little bit of money, they may not work at all. They'll stay home and play Xbox if they can. They'll get by paying their bills, living, I guess, as neat as possible if they can avoid going back to work. Or there are some people who are like, I'll get this a little bit and maybe try to subsidize a little bit by doing Uber or something, or DoorDash or something like that. People aren't going out there and working. And so that was silly. Universal health care. I don't understand why people would still want universal health care after the pandemic. I mean, they were like, people were literally saying, if you don't get this vaccine, people shouldn't treat you at the hospital. If that's the attitudes that people are going to have, why would you want some kind of government health care? Or how they were saying that you had to be vaccinated if you were a healthcare worker or if you're working at some kind of place that receives Medicaid, like at a nursing home or something like that, because it's government funding. So if there's government funds involved, you have to do what the government commands you to do, and your bodily autonomy on that issue is just gone, or you just don't have a job. The more strings that are money's not free. Money's not free. And government doesn't have money. They can print it, but they confiscate it from you. And it always, when they give it back to you and they redistribute it, it always comes with strings attached. So people should have learned some more about human nature during this pandemic, but I don't think they learned enough. But I'm glad that some people woke up. But these folks don't know. These folks don't know how to solve the problem. Okay, I want to talk about this ESPN thing. So this is just crazy, guys. Just absolutely ludicrous.
Pitcher Jason Adam to the Tampa Bay Times. Hard decision, because ultimately we all said we want them to know that they are welcome and loved here. But when we put it on our bodies, I think a lot of guys decided that it's just a lifestyle that maybe, not that they look down on or anything or differently, it's just that maybe we don't want to encourage, we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior. Sarah Spain, how does that all come off to you?
Pride is about inclusion, so you don't love them and you don't welcome them if you're not willing to wear the patch. And calling it a lifestyle reveals to me that you've done not even a modicum of research or understanding on this topic, which is what tends to happen when a privileged class isn't affected by things. This is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS, which is used in sport and otherwise, also allows for people to be denied health care, jobs, apartments, children, prescriptions, all sorts of rights. And so we have to stop tiptoeing around it, because we're trying to protect people who are trying to be bigoted from asking for them to be exempt from it, when the very people that they are bigoted against are suffering the consequences.
When you say trying to be bigoted,
they're trying to use religious exemptions to affect the opportunities, services, available resources for people who are LGBTQ+.
and a patch on the jersey in this way?
In the case of sport, no. In the case of sport, though, they're double talking if they're saying you're welcome while also saying that we don't encourage or we disagree with it, especially when there are devout people of every single religion that also welcome and are open to people who are born gay.
David.
So that was just so much vomit. Like, like she was so prepared, and then she just regurgitated all of that stuff. So if people don't want to wear the patch, they don't want to wear the patch. And she got so triggered because they said lifestyle, and she's like, oh, they're ignorant and stuff. And people still, whether you can't help who you are attracted to, we're having a religious conversation apparently. You may have a natural attraction. I'm an unmarried woman. It would be against my religion. It would be sinful if I engaged in intercourse with someone, even if it's a heterosexual relationship, and I had sex. So even that's a natural attraction, I would still be engaging in something that is not correct. So you can still call it a lifestyle, because whether you choose to engage, you choose to engage. So there's that. So she got really, really mad about that. Then she went on this whole rant as if people mention religion as an excuse to discriminate against other people. And so I was trying to find this clip of AOC. Because AOC said the same thing maybe about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit, maybe had to be longer than that. I don't know. But she went on a rant about, I can't remember that specifically, but she said that every time people invoke religious liberty, they're doing it in the name of bigotry. And so there's people out here who legitimately just believe that you don't hold real, true religious convictions, that you are somehow just a racist, terrible person, and you are using your theology to shield your true intentions for some reason. And I don't know why so many people go that route. Now, she mentioned there's people of all faiths who are just welcoming. So maybe she feel like they're the real Christians, or they're the real Muslims, or they're the real Jews, because they're willing to just put some things that their Bible says aside and just be accepting and welcoming to people. And by the way, you can be loving to people and respect who they are and not agree with what they do, and not support a sinful sort of nature, I guess, or action. You can still do that. I mean, if she doesn't agree, if you don't agree with someone in their, I mean, if she was not bigoted, I guess, and she was a tolerant person, then she would be respecting where they're coming from. But she can't, because she's not tolerant and she's a bigot. So you can disagree with people. Like I have conversations with people, and I have people who follow me who are trans, like on TikTok and stuff, and if I'm follow and I'm friends with people on that app who are trans, and the way I don't respect people's pronouns, and I guess they don't actually like the pronoun question either. This particular person I'm thinking about, they just don't think it's a big deal themselves, but I've had conversations with some people on their page and stuff about the pronoun issue, and I'm like, I'm not going to compromise the truth. And I don't care about what your truth is, and my truth doesn't even matter either. It's just the objective truth. That's what I care about. And I'm not going to compromise that, even for your feelings. And I don't feel that it's compassionate to bend the truth, because ultimately I believe the truth is supposed to set you free, just to spare your feelings. So the way that we can reach some kind of compromise, if your name, whatever your name is, your name, and you went ahead and changed it legally, I guess, go ahead and use that. So we can do that. But if you are a dudeish looking dude, I'm not going to call you ma'am. I'm not going to call you she. I'm not going to do that. Like, people who are familiar with the show know that I respecting your pronouns, and actually I'm not misgendering by using your pronouns that correlate with your how you were identified when you were born, I guess you could say. So we can still respect each other's rights without me having to throw out what I believe out of the window. So you're not asking for tolerance. You are asking for compliance. And if you don't comply, not just comply, you have to celebrate, then you're a bigot. So her rant was wild, and then she went into healthcare and all kinds of different stuff. Let me just open that back up again and get to that, when she went on a rant about other things. She talked about marginalized people, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Pitcher Jason Adam to the Tampa Bay Times. Hard decision, because ultimately we all said we want.
Calling it a lifestyle reveals to me that you've done not even a modicum of research or understanding on this topic, which is what tends to happen when a privileged class isn't affected by things. This is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS, which is used in sport and otherwise, also allows for people to be denied health care, jobs, apartments, children, prescriptions, all sorts of rights. And so
So she went on this huge rant about it's just baseball and wearing a pin. Baseball and wearing a pin, but she used all this time to grandstand about all these other political things. And what she's saying isn't even like true in a lot of cases. They're talking about people being denied healthcare. Like, are you talking about like a Catholic hospital or something with like a religious affiliation that doesn't want to chop off the breast of a healthy female? Like, they may be denying you healthcare with stuff like that, but if you need some penicillin or something and you go to the doctor and you happen to be trans, I'm pretty sure they're still going to give that to you. Pretty sure that they're still going to give that to you. So a lot of the hysteria from the left on these issues is just bonkers. I want everyone to have equal rights, but I don't want equity where you feel like you have to Frankenstein and make yourself more important because you feel like you are more of an entitled class. And it's funny that she talks about people coming from a place of privilege, but doesn't even want to just respect people for not wearing a pin. It is just a pin. It is just a pin in a month that they commercialized. Like a few years ago, this is like a newer phenomenon. And I understand that people are marketing the crap out of it, and it's kind of cultish. Again, it's not about you just being tolerant of people. If you don't celebrate this stuff, it's crazy. And there are people, at least I guess on my side of the aisle, who are LGBT, who are just like, I don't like Pride. They're like, I don't like the LGBT community. It's just so toxic. And this one young woman who follows me, I saw one of her videos and she said that she wanted to go to Pride and then COVID happened and they couldn't go to Pride, and she's like, I'm so glad that I didn't end up going to that kind of stuff, because she just sees the community is very toxic, and also like kinky weird stuff also happens at these things too. So there's a lot of people within the community that don't even like the community because of how toxic people like her are. And I bet she wouldn't have gone through a rant to defend people who were left off donor list because they wouldn't take a COVID vaccine and were like, well, I'm gonna die. I bet she wouldn't be talking about the rights of those people. And I bet she probably wasn't talking about the rights of Masterpiece Cake Shop, a man who was like, you can buy whatever cake you want in the shop, but I'm not gonna make a special one for you for celebrating your gay marriage. Like, you can buy whatever cake, but I'm not going to make one especially because that violates my freedom of expression. What about people like that? You're going to stand up for people like that? Probably not, because folks like her believe that these people are actually just bigots and they're just using religion as a disguise. And I don't understand that. Maybe because they don't want to look like full-on bigots and just attack religion head on. And maybe because, I don't know, she may have her own faith. I'm not too familiar with this woman. I do not watch sports and definitely don't watch ESPN. So I'm not familiar with her. I'm not familiar with her background, and if she is a person of faith, and so maybe she feels like she can't attack it outright because she still has her beliefs, even though she may be coming from a progressive place. And again, she mentioned how there's people of different faiths that would have, I guess, complied and probably worn a pin and celebrate all the Pride stuff. But I don't. That kind of stuff is kind of clear cut when you read the book. And I'm sorry, with at least all the Amber Hague faiths, So why not just go straight for the jugular and attack Jews and Christians and Muslims for what they believe rather than attacking people who just believe it? That's what I don't get. I don't understand why they want to, I don't know, pretend people aren't sincere about their faith and pretend that people are just using it as a cover. What do you guys have to explain to me? But I just thought that rant was fascinating. And they're like, what does all this have to do with baseball? And she she was waiting for her moment. But the wokeness is everywhere. It's a disease. It's a disease. Okay, let's talk about Matthew McConaughey. Let's move on. So Matthew McConaughey went to the White House, and a lot of people like Matthew McConaughey, and he's more reasonable than the average political bear, I suppose. But there's I don't want to play the snippet of a speech that he had, and some people were ragging on him and making a lot of jokes and stuff. I think his heart is in the right place with a lot of folks, but with a lot of stuff. But if you're not really versed in gun issues or statistics and following up on how these what the laws are, like someone today left a comment on a video. It was a Jimmy Kimmel video that the NBC Australia channel posted on TikTok, and Jimmy Kimmel was crying because of Uvalde, and he said there's already been 27 shootings this year. And he's like, when is it going to stop, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And I said, this isn't even true. And some people commented like, oh, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not, because I guess technically there's been 27 shootings, but when you're comparing it to Uvalde, it gives it, you're kind of manipulating people, and you shouldn't trust people when they put things this way, because they're conflating different kind of phrases. So there's a difference between a mass shooting, a mass school shooting, and a school shooting. A mass shooting, I believe the number is there has to at least be like 4 people who were shot. Sometimes people count 3, sometimes people count 4. Then it's a mass shooting. All right, so like there's a lot of mass shootings in Chicago and other stuff like that happens every weekend. But a mass shooting is just like multiple like shots. A school shooting is a gun goes off like in a school. So it could be like students, or just not even students, people out in the parking lot, and maybe there's a gang situation or something. So not situations like Uvalde. Uvalde was a mass school shooting where you had mass casualties that happened at a school. So there haven't been incidents like that besides like Uvalde 27 times. There's been the other 26 were like issues where maybe there was a dispute at the parking lot and a gun went off, and there were either like 1 person shot or 0. Could have been 0. So that's not really the same as what happened in Uvalde, obviously. And as far as things that happen in Uvalde, every single one is tragic. But when you're telling people, but there's been 27, and people are thinking of how awful Uvalde is, and like, oh my gosh, this has happened 27 times, and at the time this was, I think maybe May, or I don't know if it was June yet when he mentioned it, but we're really, I guess it maybe had to happen late May or whatever. That's really alarming. I mean, it's alarming when this happens anyway, but there's been 13 since 1966 when you're talking about these mass school shootings. So that's very different than people hearing 27 and thinking, oh my gosh, there's been 27 accounts like this. No. And so happening one time is awful and it's terrible. But why do you think they're manipulating you with these numbers like this? So people are like, why are you arguing about this? Kids are dying, kids are dying, kids are dying. I'm like, because when people would manipulate you with these sort of numbers, they're probably going to manipulate you. You're manipulating you in this way because they have some agenda, and they may not even want something that'll necessarily solve the problem. And if you don't understand what laws are in place, much about guns, and there's people who know way more about this topic than I do, but it's crazy. I mean, people are like, we need background checks, and I'm like, do you not know we have background checks? Like, we have the gun show loopholes and background. If you order a gun online, I'm like, do you not know that they do background checks, and you have to go pick it up from, like, if you're ordering it from like a licensed dealer, if you order online, you have to go to like a place to go pick it up. You can't just, it's not just gonna like come to your house in a box. It says I am a gun. That's not happening. Like Steven Crowder did a video years ago when he went to a gun show and tried to and he busts the myth about the loopholes, and people are like, no, I'm not, like, I have to do a background check. Like, I'm not going to jail for you. Like, we have to do background checks. It's like, oh, I heard you didn't do background checks at gun shows. I was like, no, we do background checks. So when people like Biden and other folks get up and they talk about that, they're trying to instill people with the impression that we don't have background checks. It's really messed up. And it's done to manipulate people. I know Biden knows better. His brain might be spaghetti. And he may be a little senile. I don't know how senile. I know enough to know that he knows that, and he's a liar. Like Tim Pool, when Joe Biden had his speech, I guess it was last week, he's like, man, he's a bad person. He's just constantly lying. Just an awful human being. Especially to take a tragedy like that and just to lie to the American people. And why would you lie to the American people like this just to get your agenda passed? Well, I think your agenda is a little more nefarious than what you're letting on, especially if you're willing to lie and take advantage of such a tragedy. So when they're like, why are you arguing about this? I'm like, because I think the truth is important. And if you don't have a correct perspective, people are just going to take advantage of your feelings and of your emotions. That's why I try not to jump on too hot when this stuff happens, not because it's not emotional and I'm not devastated or anything like that, but I don't want to misspeak. I don't want to misinform. And I want to rationally come up with the best sort of solutions. And it's not easy in America, because there are over 400 million guns in circulation. There's more guns than people. And it's not something that you can just disarm the population with. And it's our Constitution. If you don't want all these guns here, frankly, you can go. I mean, it is in our DNA. You can amend the Constitution. Good luck with that. But they don't want to do that. They want to do all these kind of small incremental disarming you, and then they're going to want some kind of registry, and because they can't really disarm you unless there's some kind of registry, and after there's some kind of registry, yeah, they can try to move to some kind of disarming of the people. It's a process, but they need to get people as emotional as possible and not thinking about this stuff in order to sacrifice their liberties for safety. When the truth is that guns save a lot more people than they kill in this country. So people are like, we just got to get rid of all the guns. I'm like, do you think that's going to solve the problem? Let me go ahead and play McConaughey, this little portion of his speech.
So, we know it's on the table. We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations.
So I agree with some of those things. Coming for people who break these laws would be great. As I played yesterday, this video from Tom Cotton when he was questioning an ATF person who he ended up withdrawing, but he was questioning like, hey, Hunter Biden, he lied on his ATF form, and this gun his like girlfriend like threw away in a garbage can at like a school, and Secret Service had to go retrieve the firearm. And then Hunter Biden wrote a book. And then Hunter Biden said in his book that he was addicted to drugs at the time. Now, on the ATF form, asked you if, like, are you addicted to substance stuff or abuse or whatever? And he said no on the form. Obviously, according to his book, it was a lie. So Tom Khan's like, this is a clear cut. He did it. He lied. Statute of limitations in the past, and he's required to have his form up to 5 years. So the evidence should be there. So are we going to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law? So I really don't have a lot of interest in hearing from Joe Biden unless this is addressed. And you can say, oh, that's not fair. You got to address all kinds of other things. But if people are going to break the law, and you don't care who breaks the law, or you won't go after people who break the law, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. It's a clear cut. I did it. Very clear cut. If you're not willing to go after people who break the law, why are you going after law-abiding citizens? So I agree with them. Go after people who break the law. He talked about, since media coverage with these situations, I don't know how deep he means with that, but the more people report on this stuff and talk about this stuff, has been like some studies, and there's people who watch that stuff and they want to live in sort of infamy like other people. It's like that instant fame gratification stuff. That's one reason why people are so that may bother me, how obsessed people were about the Buffalo shooter and his manifesto. I'm like, they're talking about this manifesto so obsessively in the media. Like, I don't think we're gonna long for like another sort of crazy shooter person, probably, if they're gushing over this and making it such a huge media story, relating every single word on the page to like the whole political narrative of Republicans bad, Tucker Carlson bad, even though the shooter didn't like Tucker, Fox News or conservatives, but they had their narrative and their agenda to push. And you had Liz Cheney say Republicans are supporting white supremacy and all this other, like, it was just nutso. I mean, there's some networks that won't even say the shooter's name. I've never said the shooter's name. I've never showed his picture. Daily Wire doesn't show their name or their picture, but not all media companies do that sort of things. And frankly, tragedy, it gets them some numbers. So I don't know if they're going to stop, even in the best interest of the nation. And we have all these cable news shows, and we also have social media, and that plays into their psychology. Now, the raising the age to 18, it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you can say, why does it make any sense? Are people suggesting that when you are 18 and apparently you're a psychopath, that all you need is a little more time to mature out of it? Or are people hoping that by 18 it's really early, so maybe they don't have a record and they're going to do something crazy, and then it's something that'll pop up on a red flag or background check or something? I don't know what people are expecting, because most mass shootings are done with handguns, not rifles, not AR-15s, but handguns. So there's that. I think some states kids can't have handguns. Like, I think the reason why Kyle Rittenhouse had a rifle, because it was legal to have a rifle. Wouldn't have been legal for him to like concealed carry a gun and stuff. So I think some places all you can have is a rifle. And I don't think, if 18 is too young to have a gun, then we need to consider our standards of adulthood, and maybe 18 is too young to vote, even though they're talking about like 16 being old enough to vote, and they want to lower the age. And frankly, I think our country would be a lot better off right now if we raise the age to vote. Oh my gosh, there's so many kids, young people with bad ideas. Like on TikTok, I can usually tell when someone is 15 to 23. It's just how they communicate and can't really think through their positions and there are adults with bad ideas, and there are some kids with good ideas. I was a sharp kid, but I can usually tell, but so raising the age of adulthood is tempting, but I know we're not going to do that. Like, wait for people to sign contracts. I know that they're not going to wait and raise the age for people going to military. And Joe Biden already addressed this, that he thinks it's different. He said this in a speech, that it's different when you're an 18-year-old and you go into the military. He said, because you're supervised and you're trained. But we could solve the training and stuff. We could have it mandatory in schools. It's a Second Amendment right. Why not have it like mandatory in schools, that you do some kind of training with firearms? There's schools that do sports, activities with guns and stuff like that, and have different shooting teams. So if you're really concerned about training and think that training is the really big difference maker, then you can supply that. But if you're going to make it so that people have to pay for their training as a hurdle for them to be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights, that's you infringing and also creating a class warfare situation. Especially when people talk about needing different gun licenses that you renew every year, et cetera. And I suppose if they're having all those licenses and stuff, they probably have. You're moving towards wanting some kind of registry, and registry is not too far off from people knowing where the guns are so they can come and confiscate them. So people are very much against having some kind of list. So I don't understand the 18-year-old thing. So you think a 18-year-old can be trained by a killer to go out and kill for the country, but you don't think a 19-year-old, 20-year-old woman who's like living on her own should be able to have a firearm to defend herself? That doesn't make any sense to me. Again, are we just hoping that 18, you may be crazy and you just need some time to walk it off? This kid Uvalde was very disturbed. He was self-mutilating himself with knives, like cutting up his face. He was abusive. He was violent with other women. He was violent with women who rejected him. He threatened to sexually assault women who rejected him. He would go around like shooting like BB guns and stuff at people, apparently. And then he had like a bag of dead cats he was carrying around, by the way. Like, if you have a bag of dead cats, those are signs of you being a psychopath, I think. Those are the sort of origin stories you hear for someone who's going to be like the villain of Stranger Things. if you're caught up with the season. So yeah, mental health, but like and background checks and stuff, but he passed the background checks. So the question is, how come these things aren't popping up? How come this stuff isn't being reported? If people don't report stuff and it doesn't land on people's records, then people are going to continue to pass background checks, even if they're psychotic. The shooter in Buffalo, he actually announced that he wanted to commit a school shooting. I don't know how much of that is villain monologuing or a cry for help, like, I'm going to do this, someone stop me, I dare you. But he had like an evaluation and still ended up passing a background check in New York. It got his gun in New York and was able to commit this heinous crime, in which he went to a place where he believed that people would not be armed there, and said in his manifesto that good places to attack are gun-free zones. So Matthew McConaughey mentioned making schools safer, and I think you do that with different security. I think you can do that with having different armed security. I think you can do that with also arming teachers. Now, I saw a video today of a teacher talking about how guns in schools don't make her feel more safe, and that these people who want teachers armed are expecting teachers to die for their kids. I don't think that's necessarily why teachers should be armed, because I was on the fence about that, and I think maybe the day or so after Uvalde or something, maybe it wasn't the Uvalde shooting, but I think I mentioned it on the air that I wasn't totally comfortable with the idea of it. And then I did a little more reading, and I'm like, there are teachers that already have this, and there haven't been incidents. And looking at what happened with Uvalde, where there's like police not doing anything, do you really want to be a teacher in a room and you can't defend yourself, yeah, it'd be nice if you want to defend the kids because you are people entrusted them in your care. Okay, but you don't. If that's not what you feel that you want to do, you at least don't want to have the option to defend your own life. That's really why I believe you should be able to do it. At least if you're not thinking that you want to protect the children, Miss Teacher who said that. Wouldn't you at least want to have the opportunity to protect and defend your own life and not be a sitting duck? Well, there's a crazy person who somehow, a literal crazy person who somehow passed a check, a background check, and the police are not doing anything to save you. Like, wouldn't you at least want a firearm to protect your life? And maybe you don't because you don't know much about guns. Maybe you're scared of guns. Maybe you've tried it and you can't shoot, whatever. Okay, maybe you don't want to, but I think there's plenty of other people who would want that opportunity. And to the parents out there who hear teachers saying we don't want to die for your kids, you are entrusting. First of all, the police do not have a duty to act. They don't have a constitutional duty to protect you. Just FYI, I'm pro police. I like the police and everything, but they still don't have a duty to act. So just FYI, your self-preservation is your responsibility. And when you are entrusting your kids to someone else, I assume that you are expecting that they will also take care of your kids. But FYI, there's teachers out there who are saying, I'm not going to do that. So you probably do need to consider putting your kid in some kind of private school where they do have some kind of security, where they will make that a priority with protecting your kids, or you need to homeschool them. Just a little 2 cents advice out there for the parents. Like, it's weird for me to hear teachers being like, I'm not dying for your kid. I'm like, okay, but parents, you need to hear that. You need to hear that. Another thing McConaughey said, he mentioned how we need to restore American values, but then he talked about how we needed to raise the limits for people purchasing AR-15s and stuff. And I'm like, how is restoring American values and infringing on people's constitutional rights? How can you stand for one and the other, where you want to infringe but you want to restore American values? Now, I don't know what all McConaughey believes are American values, but it's in our Constitution. So I think that qualifies. And you may say nobody needs, and people there's someone commented on to another person under one of my videos, are like, you people on the right think we're coming for your guns. No, we're just talking about 18-year-olds. You're talking about 18-year-olds today. That is a talking point today. But you know what? These things have happened repeatedly. And I don't remember all these conversations about 18-year-olds specifically. People have talked about, why do you need an AR-15? Why does anyone need an assault rifle? Please do not pretend like people have not uttered that stuff time and time again. Like it's just a new conversation exclusively for 18-year-olds. Or that it will only be a conversation exclusively for 18-year-olds. When Beto O'Rourke was saying, heck yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s, he didn't say, well, heck yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s if you're 18. He didn't say that. He didn't mean that, and these people don't mean that either. They are just trying a slow crawl to take away your rights. And another thing with these 18-year-olds, again, are they just expecting that they'll mature and just not be crazy? But how are things gonna pop up on people's records when people don't want to arrest them? People don't want, when they do really heinous things and plea down. And we can talk about that in general. But the other day, I think it was yesterday, I played a video, and there was a 16-year-old in California who purposely was in a stolen car, ran over a woman who was pushing a stroller. They flipped over the car. She lived her baby life, thank God. And then they hit someone else. That person got 5 months in juvie camp. 5 months in juvie camp for attempted murder. with a stolen vehicle with a prior criminal history, which that prior criminal history was drugging a young woman's drink. Dude is psychotic. Allegedly, at least I heard when I heard this report on Fox News, they were talking about there's a possibility they may have a wiped record when they turn 18. That's crazy. And then you have people who are all kinds of problem children. There was a law in California that inconveniently it's bad timing, got passed, where they don't want to have to automatically report different things that happen to the school to the police. And the ACLU was for that because it disproportionately impacts brown people. So people who are terrorized, who are in these communities full of brown, black people, by other brown and black people, don't get to have these people reported on because you want to protect those black and brown people? That's crazy. But you may have people who have some kind of record and career throughout their school career that you don't want. You're not putting stuff that would get flagged in some kind of background check. So you can't talk about background checks if you're not serious about crime. Punishing people about crimes they commit. It doesn't make any sense. So I think McConaughey's making some sense here with some stuff. But there's a lot of people who don't want to solve the problem. They want to get rid. They think you are the problem. They think you, an armed population of people, is the problem. That's the problem. And things like Uvalde and Buffalo, Sandy Hook, etc. Those are crises that they don't want to waste. Never waste a good crisis was coined by Rahm Emanuel. Hillary Clinton, all kinds of other people on the Democrat side have repeated it time and time again. Now, McConaughey, they're at the White House. They use these celebrities to try to draw some attention. And me and my sister were talking about it. I'm like, Biden's not gonna be able. I don't see Biden being able to get anything really done with this. I don't care how many celebrities he trots to the White House. I don't care if it's BTS. I don't care if it's Matthew McConaughey. Biden is not more charismatic, and he's definitely not smarter than Barack Obama. And Obama couldn't get anything done when he was up there crying, and when he had his tragedies under his own belt. But Obama did like to play the celebrity game, man. I did not know. Did you guys know they had Jack Black and Morgan Freeman and some other folks do a video about the Iran deal? Like trying to urge like people to go along with the Iran deal. I did not know that. I saw that video yesterday. I have to share it with you guys or share post on social media, retweet it or something. But it was wild. I did not see that. And I'm like, I know these people don't know what they talking about. I know they don't know what they're talking about. So I think McConaughey's heart is in the right place. I think a lot of people's hearts are in the right place, but you still have to think these things through, and we need to have discussions. And when people just scream out, "Kids are dying," yeah, that's true. And I sincerely want to solve the problem. And you are of no help to me if you are emotional and ignorant. Like, you can be emotional, but I need you to have some facts, and I need you to think some things through critically, and we can try to work this out. But there's a lot of Democrat-run cities that have a lot of not just gun crime, but just violent crime in general. And if they knew how to solve the problem, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these people do know how to solve the problem, but if they wanted to solve the problems, I don't think their cities would be as bad as they are. So do you think Biden really has the answer to solving gun crises when he keeps quoting things like, "Oh, we have the assault weapons ban that worked"? No, it didn't. No, it didn't. and waiting periods like we talking about like a couple days to get the AR-15. That might solve, stop a little bit. Like there was a shooting the other day when there was a man who had a botched surgery, so he went in to kill a doctor at a hospital. I think he got his gun pretty immediately. That was a revenge sort of killing, and it was awful. And all these things are awful. So I don't know if him being in pain another 3 days waiting for that AR-15 or whatever would have stopped him from doing that. I don't know. I don't know how long he was planning it out. So a lot of these suggestions that people have, they're just not good. With the 18-year-old, you're gaslighting us, man. It's a red herring. Like you say 18-year-olds today, but I know you mean no one should own an AR-15. You'll take what you can get for now, but I know what the end game is. I know what the end game is. Especially with so many people saying these things don't happen in Europe. These things, which they do happen in other places, including in Australia. But Australia had a mandatory buyback. So when people mention like we need to be like these other countries, you want a mandatory buyback? Keyword mandatory. Which, by the way, someone asked Hillary Clinton about a mandatory buyback when she was on the campaign trail in 2016, and she said, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." So these people don't respect your rights. And we have a Second Amendment to deter a tyrannical government. As much as we want it for hunting, as much as we want it for our self-preservation, and even just like sporting stuff, it's a deter a tyrannical government. So what does an 18-year-old need an AR-15 for? To deter a tyrannical government. Point blank. Okay, last thing I want to mention today is that San Francisco voted out overwhelmingly to out a woke Soros prosecutor. So that's good news. Some people are waking up. This is being reported on the Daily Wire. San Francisco voters sent shockwaves throughout the political world Tuesday night, removing woke District Attorney Chesa Boudin from office, ending his disastrous tenure in office. Boudin could not overcome a coalition or more D-minded Democrats, Republicans and independents who were furious over the rampant property crimes, open drug use, persistent retail theft, and the skyrocketing number of certain crimes. Voters strongly endorsed ousting the reform-minded DA as a partial returns showed about 60% of voters supporting the recall. Wall Street Journal reported since Boudin took office in January 2020, burglaries have risen 45% and homicides have increased 37%. Boudin was backed by far-left billionaire George Soros, claimed that his embarrassing defeat was really a victory, saying, "We have already won because we have redefined the way people think about the role in the district's attorney office." So Soros has been funding a lot of these candidates for a long time, spent millions and millions, perhaps more, on these different races. I don't know, because he's evil. I don't know. Another race, then he's evil. And people talk about Soros like he's some kind of boogeyman, but he really is a figure that has really worked to transform America. Daily Mail, he put out an article a couple days, maybe it was like a day or so ago, about how George Soros-backed groups that have spent $40 million to elect 75 progressive prosecutors over the last decade, meaning 1 in 5 Americans now live in areas covered by his criminal justice reformers. So, if you want to do something about overall gun crime and violent crime in general, like, we should get rid of these folks who don't believe in prosecuting people who commit crime. And it doesn't matter what their skin color is. It doesn't matter what the disproportionate impact is. It doesn't matter what racial justice is. It doesn't matter what those things are. Did they do the crime? Are they hurting other people? Do they infringe on other people's rights? Did they terrorize them? Okay, put them in jail. Because it doesn't make sense to want to go after law-abiding citizens and have these people being able to just steal things in broad daylight, be able to attack people on subways and get back on the street and do the same thing time and time again, to bail out, give people incredibly low cash bail, and then they go and they commit a Christmas parade massacre with a car, not a gun, just running over grandmas and children in Christmas parades. People, crime is so bad. People, it's like people are getting worse out there. Like it's just a disease of people um not having any sort of deterrent, so they go out and they're just acting crazy. You start throwing some more people in jail, people will start straightening up, fly right, I swear. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on the website, different merchandise that I have in the store, like this, The Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document with Frederick Douglass on there with those cool little glasses as well. We got these Club XX lifetime membership shirts. We got the Trump 2024 Make Crack Whack Again shirt, and all kinds of goodies that you guys can check out. Also, I do write books. You guys can check out some of my books, like Super Kids, a story about a boy with an overactive imagination who believes he has superpowers. He does not, in fact, have superpowers, but he teams up with this girl in his class named Kiara, who goes along with, she has a huge crush on him. She becomes Princess Lady Diva. They help with this other kid named Lee. So he thinks it's real. So they train him, becomes kind of like their Batman. So he's Stick Man. So they go around the community just trying to do good. And so I have Super Kid and Super Kid 2 that you guys can check out. I have quite a few people who have picked up Super Kid for their kids and have really, really enjoyed it. So I appreciate people who watch the show, who have supported and who pass it along. I really, really love to write, and I have things for older readers as well, but I'm not going to go into the whole spiel of explaining stuff. I might on Friday because it's my birthday, and why not? Why not? But check out some of my stuff. If you go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise button, there's going to be different stuff what we have at the store, but there's also going to be a banner that'll take you to my book website. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Make sure you guys are following the page on Facebook. I know a lot of you like the page, but they change stuff around, so now you got to follow. Make sure that you guys are subscribing, hitting notification bells on YouTube. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Getter. I'm not on True Social yet. I don't know if they allow Android on there yet, but I do not have an iPhone. So I guess eventually I hear engagement is pretty high. So it's just a lot for one person. Support Black Tea News, guys, and help build the operation. And I didn't mention this yet, but I want to thank Brighter Michigan Pack. In their studio today. If I said something today that triggered you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. But I do appreciate having the space to speak freely, and they like uplifting conservative voices, and I really appreciate these guys. So God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.